astronauts will say that the blues that you see in the Bahamas are some of the most beautiful scenes that you can get when you circle the planet. A lot of cloud here with a coastline way off to the right, which I don't immediately recognize. And a closer-up view of the same thing. The air is coming off the coast from right to left, and then a little bit closer than the last view, but obviously with a focus on the moon.
And the moon about to set in the upper reaches of the atmosphere in this imagery. And I might ask, since most of your work is done with still photography from the station for scientific reasons, although high-definition television is a recent accomplishment, but primarily you look at stills that are taken on the station. And how many have been taken so far in the years that the station has been manned?
I think and just from station?
Yes.
Let me think about that. I do know that in our database as a whole, we have something like 600,000 images, and I would say that it's greater than 30,000 from the space station. I misspoke. They're more like 300,000 from space station alone. It's ramped up a lot. Look at this neat picture of Great Salt Lake in Utah.
And the variation in color is
that's due to an almost complete blockage of the circulation of the lake by a trestle for a railroad that crosses from one side to the other, stops the circulation, and things get saltier and a little bit. Yes, certainly saltier at the north end of the lake, which is with the purple end. The bluer is the fresher end, I believe. This is an interesting sideways view of the peninsula of Florida, with the Keys stretching out into the lowest part of the picture there, and the shallow seas around the Bahama Islands, top right. And Cuba coming into the picture lower right, I would think, yeah. It's big enough to be Cuba. The zone top left in the lightest blue is known as the Bahama Bank, being a very shallow part of the Atlantic Ocean. Again, you can see the much deeper parts immediately to the north of the island of Cuba, and shallower parts to the south of the island of Cuba, right at the bottom of the picture, where there also seems to be some river sediment making a browner look to it. The city of Detroit, with Lake St. Clair at the top with a lot of sediment in it, and Lake Erie would be on the right-hand side of the picture. So that's the peninsula of Ontario, where they grow some grapes, even in Canada. That's a reflection seeming to come in on the top left.
And the sun glint visible in this picture on the lower right corner.
Yes. This, I believe, is probably the high plains. Dallas-Fort Worth coming into being zoomed in on right now. You can see the water supply in the form of the blue lakes. The top of the picture, 3 lakes maybe. Far left, another lake, and all the rivers then leading down off into the right part of the view into other lakes towards Houston. A closer up view of Dallas-Fort Worth and those lakes south of DFW.
I think important to note that as we watch this imagery that the spacecraft is traveling at about 5 miles a second over the terrain below.
Correct. And here comes Galveston Bay into the picture in the center, with Texas City as a bright blob lower left and Galveston right on the coastline. There, Galveston, left, lower left. And the Space Center, which is probably what the astronaut was thinking of, at the top of the picture, right about there. The rectangular look to the fields here says that this is a North American agricultural landscape. Don't recognize that particular lake. There are many in the high plains. This is North Dakota. I recognize the lake going out of the picture on the left there. I think that's Lake Sacagawea. And the International Peace Garden going out of the picture left, right on the Canadian border. So we're slowly coming into areas around Minnesota. Again, this has a Minnesota look because of the many lakes at the top left of the picture. The big cloud band you see stretching across this picture from left to right seems to be part of a frontal cloud band, cold air on one side, probably at the top, and warmer air on the bottom. You can see two cloud types here, crisp lower clouds and a much more diffuse higher cloud.
And there seems to be some unusual looking parallel lines in the clouds in this view.
Yes, those are waves produced in the atmosphere that then can make the clouds look a little wavy, sometimes called wave clouds. There's a lake, too, just disappearing out of the top of the view. It's harder to see water when there's a lot of cloud in the picture because of the gain by the cameras. Here we finally moved across the frontal boundary into clearer air. This is the Ohio River Valley in the region of Cincinnati, and I think coming into the picture there would be, the parallel lines of the Appalachian Mountains. Very characteristic geology. Lots of parallel lines, and the city coming into the bottom right. In the middle now, the lightest gray area, and the Chesapeake Bay, with the Delmarva Peninsula in the center. Appalachian Mountains, top left, that characteristic parallel look, and lots of high cirrus cloud in the picture, lower cumulus cloud over the Delmarva Peninsula. This seems to be the upper Midwest as well, I think, with the Black Hills as the lower dark spot, lower left near the horizon with the moon peeping in on the far left side. So that would be probably the Missouri River in the center of the picture, draining towards the lower right of the pic. And rivers at the top right would be tributaries to the Mississippi, up in Minnesota or Illinois. The sand hills of Nebraska, probably in the picture near the Black Hills. And a new frontal boundary, or maybe the same one, represented by all this big sweep of clouds from lower left to top right. The spacecraft is moving from northwest to southeast. There's always an easterly component to the way our spacecraft fly. Looks as though that may be the Missouri River in the lower right.